On the distant planet of Leora 7, life was quiet, simple, and orderly. Towering crystalline trees shimmered under the soft light of 3 suns, casting long reflections across the golden fields below. The colony's buildings were circular and smooth, blending naturally with the land. Roads were covered with a thin, protective layer that glowed faintly at night. The people of Leora 7 were careful and peaceful, spending their lives farming, learning, and exploring the small wonders of their world. But for all their beauty, their planet had one weakness: the storms. Every few decades, Leora 7 faced violent solar storms that could knock out energy systems, destroy buildings, and leave entire cities in darkness. And now, a storm unlike any they had seen before was forming near the outer atmosphere. The elders of the colony watched anxiously from their observation towers as massive, swirling clouds grew larger by the hour. Among them was Sorel, a young Lioran who worked as a technician. Her job was to monitor energy levels and help maintain the colony's protective shields. She was small and wiry, with bright amber eyes that reflected the crystalline light of the planet. Sorel had always been curious about the stars, often sneaking into the observation deck at night to watch distant planets move across the sky. Tonight, though, there was no time for stargazing. "The storm is stronger than predicted," Sorel reported to the colony council. Her voice was calm, but inside her heart raced. The council, a group of wise elders, nodded gravely. "We must send a distress signal immediately," said Elder Morin, his deep voice vibrating through the chamber. "This storm could destroy our power grids within hours. If we do not get help, our colony may not survive." Sorel and a team of engineers hurried to the communications tower, a tall spire of polished metal and glass that reached high into the sky. They activated the ancient SOS beacon, a device designed to send a call across the stars to nearby friendly colonies. Normally, the signal would reach Varela Prime, a neighboring world known for its reliable rescue fleet. But tonight, the stars had a surprise in store. As the beacon hummed, Sorel double-checked the coordinates. She typed the numbers carefully, her fingers trembling slightly. Then she pressed the final button. The beacon activated, sending a pulse of light and sound across the galaxy. It was a simple message. One line of code repeated over and over. "Help needed. Emergency. Colony at risk." They all held their breath as the signal disappeared into the void. The storm above raged louder, winds thrashing against the protective domes of the city. For a moment, it seemed as if nothing could survive outside. The elders waited, knowing help would come, but they did not know from whom or from where. Far away, in a part of the galaxy that few Liorans had ever imagined, the SOS reached a world the stars called Earth. Known in ancient star charts as a death world, Earth was home to humans, creatures known for surviving impossible conditions. Deserts that burned by day and froze by night, oceans that could swallow entire cities, and storms that no technology could fully control, all of these humans had lived through. And yet, despite their strength, most intelligent species feared humans. Stories traveled across space of their boldness, their unpredictability, and their ability to adapt to anything. On Earth, the SOS pulse was received by a massive human ship called Titan's Wake, currently exploring uncharted sectors. Captain Aria Holt, a tall, composed woman with piercing gray eyes and dark hair pulled tightly into a braid, sat at the center of the command room. She watched the alert flash across her screen. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal," said Lieutenant Joran, her second in command. His voice was calm, but there was curiosity behind it. "It's unusual. Coordinates don't match any friendly worlds. Looks like the Leoran sector?" Arya leaned closer. She had studied star charts for decades, learning which planets were hospitable, which were hostile. and which were considered death worlds for their harsh conditions. Leora 7's name had been long forgotten, appearing only in dusty records. Still, the message itself was clear. The colony was in danger. "Plot a course," Arya said, her voice steady. "We go. No hesitation." Joran blinked. "Captain, the Leorans, aren't they peaceful? They don't usually contact us." "Exactly," Arya replied. "And that means they wouldn't send a false alarm. Something is happening. We help." In the blink of an eye, Titan's wake shifted out of its exploration orbit, its massive engines glowing as it tore through space at speeds that would have made Leoran's head spin. Inside the ship, humans moved with efficient purpose. Engineers checked equipment, medics prepared emergency supplies, and pilots coordinated with precision. Every human on board knew one thing: whatever awaited them, they would survive, and help those who could not survive alone. Back on Leora 7, the storm had grown to monstrous proportions. Lightning danced across the skies, striking towers and domes with energy so powerful it made the crystal structures glow bright white. Winds twisted the protective shields, threatening to tear them from their foundations. Sorel and her team scrambled to reinforce the energy conduits, but every solution seemed temporary. The colony needed help fast, or they would face total destruction. And then, in the distance, something impossible appeared. A massive shadow in the sky, moving faster than any Leoran craft could, descending toward the colony. At first, the colonists thought it was another storm cloud, but as it drew closer, its metal surface reflected the light of the three suns. It was not a storm, it was a ship bigger than any they had ever seen. The elders gasped. "It cannot be," whispered Elder Morin. "This world, no one comes here. The legends." Sorel felt her stomach twist. She had heard stories, too, stories that painted humans as unstoppable, dangerous, and terrifying. And yet this ship, enormous and humming with energy, was coming to save them. The massive vessel landed with a gentle but powerful force, shaking the ground slightly. Its surface was silver and smooth, dotted with lights and ports for smaller crafts. Doors opened along the sides and humans began to emerge, their uniforms practical and ready for any danger. They carried equipment, tools, and devices unlike anything the Leorans had seen. One human stepped forward. She was tall, confident, and radiated authority. Her presence alone seemed to calm the panic-stricken Leorans. "Greetings," she said, her voice clear across the comm system. "We received your SOS. We are here to help." For a moment, there was silence. The elders exchanged worried glances. Could they trust these humans? Could anyone survive the storm? The answer came quickly. The humans were already moving. They deployed stabilizers around the main energy grid, devices that glowed and hummed with power. Leoran engineers tried to assist, but even the youngest human crew members lifted enormous components that would have required multiple Leorans to handle. Sorel's jaw dropped as she watched the humans work fearlessly under the twisting winds and falling debris. "Their courage. It's unbelievable," Sorel whispered to Elder Morin. "Not courage," Morin replied quietly. "It is experience. They are made for survival, not just of themselves, but of others." As the storm raged, Sorel noticed something else. The humans smiled, joked quietly, and encouraged one another. Even in danger, they did not panic. The Leorans, used to careful planning and slow adjustments, had never seen such confidence. Hours passed, but the humans did not stop. They climbed towers, adjusted shields, and connected their ship directly to the colony's energy network. The storm's power was immense, but Titan's wake absorbed and redirected energy with ease. Sorel felt a strange warmth in her chest. Fear was replaced by hope. Perhaps, she thought, the legends about humans were wrong. Perhaps they were not only survivors, they were helpers. By nightfall, the storm had reached its peak. Lightning struck, buildings shook, but the colony remained standing. And at the center of it all, the humans worked tirelessly, turning what could have been a disaster into a challenge that could be overcome. When finally the winds began to die down, Sorel looked at the humans. They were tired but smiling, adjusting their equipment and speaking calmly to each other. Captain Aria's eyes met Sorel's over the comm system. "You're safe now," she said simply. The Leorans could hardly believe it. After so many years of fear, isolation, and stories of what humans could do, they had just witnessed the impossible. A race of so-called Deathworlders had answered a call not meant for them and had saved a world they barely knew existed. Sorel stood in awe, realizing that this moment would change everything. The universe was not just vast. It was full of possibilities, and sometimes help came from the most unexpected places. As the night settled over Leora 7, the colony's lights flickered back on, glowing softly through the clouds. The humans worked quietly to secure the last systems, ensuring that the colony could recover fully. Sorel knew the SOS had gone to the wrong world, but somehow this mistake was exactly what they needed. And somewhere deep in her mind, she made a promise. She would learn everything she could about these strange, strong, fearless humans. Because if they could survive storms like this, maybe together, they could survive anything. The sky over Leora 7 was filled with the eerie light of the storm's remnants, but now another presence dominated it. The enormous human ship, Titan's Wake. Its polished metal hull reflected the fading sunlight of the three suns, and lights along its sides blinked in a pattern that the Leorans had never seen before. Even from a distance, the ship seemed alive, moving with purpose rather than drifting like a natural object. From the colony's observation towers, Elder Morin and Sorel watched in silence. The elders had lived through many storms, but nothing in their memory resembled what was happening now. The human vessel dwarfed their entire city, casting a shadow that stretched across the golden fields. They are enormous," Sorel whispered, gripping the railing. "I didn't think a single ship could be that big." Morin nodded gravely. "And yet, they are here for us. That is what matters." The landing began slowly. Titan's Wake hovered above the largest plaza of the colony before lowering its massive legs to the ground. Dust and particles from the golden soil swirled in the air, pushed aside by the immense force of the ship's thrusters. Leorans, who had been too frightened to move, now stepped back in awe, watching as the ship's doors began to open with mechanical precision. From the side of the vessel, humans began to emerge. They were tall, strong, and confident, moving in perfect coordination. Some carried tools designed to repair and strengthen structures. Others held energy devices that glowed faintly, humming with power. The Leorans had never seen technology like this before. At the front of the group stood Captain Aria Holt, her tall frame moving gracefully despite the size of her ship behind her. She raised her hand in greeting, and her voice carried clearly across the colony's comm system. "Leora 7, we are here to help," she said. "Do not be afraid. We received your SOS and have come as quickly as possible." For a moment, the colony remained silent. Many Leorans had heard stories of humans, Deathworlders they were called, strong, unpredictable, and capable of surviving impossible conditions. But this was beyond anything they had imagined. The humans were not only here, but they were calm and in control, as if the storm itself had no power over them. Finally, Elder Morin stepped forward. His voice trembled slightly, but he addressed the humans. You are not from here," he said. "We did not expect anyone from your world." Aria nodded. "We come in peace. Our mission is simple, to help your colony survive this storm and restore your systems. We do not seek anything else." The Leorans exchanged uncertain glances. Could they trust these newcomers? Could anyone survive such a storm? Morin looked at Sorel and nodded. "Prepare your teams," he said. "We will work with them. There is no other choice." Sorel's heart raced. She had seen the humans move, lifting devices and materials that would require dozens of Leorans to carry. Their confidence was almost frightening, but in the face of danger, it was exactly what the colony needed. She ran to gather her team, explaining the plan quickly. The humans wasted no time. They deployed stabilizers near the central energy hub, devices that hummed and glowed as they connected to the colony's power grid. Leoran engineers watched in awe as the humans manipulated complex machinery with ease. Where the Leorans hesitated, humans acted immediately. Where the Leorans measured and calculated, humans adapted instinctively. A young Leoran technician named Tyran approached Sorel. "Do you think they understand what they are doing?" he asked nervously. Sorel shook her head slightly. "I don't know," she admitted. "But whatever it is, it works. Just watch." The storm, though weakened, still raged in parts of the city. Lightning arced across the skies, and winds tore at the remaining energy shields. Human engineers moved through it without hesitation, adjusting power lines and securing loose structures. Sorel and her team worked alongside them, handing tools, calculating energy flows, and learning as quickly as they could. Sorel noticed something remarkable. Despite the danger, the humans did not panic. They communicated in short, precise bursts, supporting each other and correcting mistakes immediately. Their coordination was unlike anything the Leorans had ever seen. Where the Leorans often argued over small details, the humans acted as a single organism, each member understanding the others instinctively. Hours passed, and the storm seemed to push back against them, but Titan's wake absorbed much of the pressure. The ship's systems fed energy directly into the colony's shields, stabilizing areas that had been on the verge of collapse. Sorel watched as humans climbed towers, securing devices and placing energy conduits with ease. At one point, a massive shard of crystal broke from a tower, threatening to fall on several engineers. Without hesitation, a human named Joran dashed forward and caught it, holding it with his bare hands while others secured it. Sorel's jaw dropped. She had never seen strength like that. Not in herself, not in anyone. By the time the storm began to subside, the humans had secured every major system in the colony. Buildings that might have crumbled under the wind remained standing, and the energy network was stronger than ever. The Leorans began to realize that these visitors were not only powerful, but intelligent, working with them rather than replacing their efforts. As the last stabilizers hummed to life, Captain Arya turned to Sorel and the Council. "The immediate danger has passed," she said. "Your systems are stable. The storm will not destroy your colony." Relief washed over the Leorans. Some fell to their knees. Others simply stared in wonder. The impossible had happened. The Deathworlders had answered a call meant for another, and they had saved a civilization. Sorel walked toward the humans, curiosity overtaking her fear. "Why did you come?" she asked softly. Arya smiled. "Because you asked for help. That is all it takes. Anyone who needs help should receive it, no matter where they are." Sorel nodded slowly, absorbing the words. Humans were different. They survived, yes, but they also cared, even for those they did not know. That combination was unlike anything she had ever seen. In the following days, humans worked alongside the Leorans to repair and improve the colony. They reinforced buildings, upgraded energy conduits, and trained the Leorans in techniques to survive future storms. Sorel observed closely, learning their methods and strategies. Every day, she noticed more of their courage, patience, and ability to adapt. The Leorans began to understand something remarkable. Strength was not just about size or power. It was about persistence, cooperation, and courage in the face of danger. Humans possessed all of these qualities in abundance. By the end of the first week, Titan's Wake had become more than a ship hovering above the colony. It was a symbol of hope, of friendship, and of what could happen when two species worked together. Even Elder Morin, once wary of humans, now spoke openly of respect for them. Sorel stood on the observation deck one evening, watching the human crew laugh quietly as they repaired a section of the energy grid. She realized that this moment, the arrival of the massive ship, the courage of the humans, and the survival of the colony, would be remembered for generations. She turned to Elder Morin. "We thought the SOS went to the wrong world," she said softly. "But maybe it went to exactly the right one." Morin nodded, his eyes reflecting the fading sunlight. "Sometimes the universe surprises us. Sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places, and when it does, we must be ready to accept it." As night fell over Leora 7, the storm was gone, but its memory remained. Buildings were scarred, fields were flattened, and some energy conduits had melted under the storm's fury. Yet the colony was alive, thriving, and stronger than before. And above it all, Titan's Wake remained, its lights shining like a promise in the sky. For Sorel, the experience had changed her forever. She had seen courage, strength, and kindness in a way she never imagined. Humans were not just survivors. They were teachers, allies, and friends. And as she watched the massive ship in the sky, she knew that this was only the beginning of something much larger. The Leorans would survive, yes, but now, with humans by their side, they could thrive. They could face storms, dangers, and challenges they had once thought impossible. And in the distance, far across the galaxy, other SOS signals might be answered by the same fearless, unpredictable, and extraordinary humans who had arrived on Leora 7. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding, learning, and cooperation. Children of the colony watched the humans with wide eyes, trying to mimic their movements and strength. Engineers discussed strategies late into the night, comparing Leoran and human methods, and Captain Arya and her crew prepared to leave soon, knowing their mission was complete, but not without leaving behind lessons and tools that would help the colony for decades to come. In quiet moments, Sorel would walk through the repaired streets, remembering the fear, the panic, and the relief she had felt. She smiled as she saw humans and Leorans working together, realizing that this unlikely meeting had changed the future of Leora 7 forever. Because sometimes, the wrong world is exactly the right world, and sometimes, strangers from across the stars become the greatest allies one could ever imagine. The morning after the storm, Leora 7 was quiet but alive. The golden fields glimmered with droplets from the previous night's rain, and the sky, now free of storm clouds, revealed the soft glow of the three suns. The humans aboard Titan's Wake had begun working systematically with the Leorans, and a sense of purpose filled the colony. Captain Arya Holt moved among her crew, giving instructions and checking progress. Her gray eyes scanned the city as her voice carried through the human comm system. "Teams Alpha and Beta, finish the stabilizer connections near the northern grid. Gamma, assist the Leoran engineers with energy rerouting." On the Leoran side, Sorel was coordinating with her own team. She had learned quickly from the humans, absorbing their strategies and methods with eagerness. Together, they moved through the city, ensuring that every damaged area received attention. Where Leorans had once struggled with heavy equipment or complex adjustments, the humans stepped in, not to replace them, but to teach them how to manage the tasks. "Sorel," a young Leoran named Tyran called out, "look at this device. I've never seen anything like it." He held a small, glowing instrument that hummed softly. Sorel smiled. That's a human energy stabilizer. Watch carefully. It can channel power from multiple sources at once. We need to link it to our grid here." Together, they attached the device to the energy lines. Sorel followed the instructions the humans had provided. The machine hummed, its light intensifying, and slowly, the surrounding power conduits stabilized. Lioran devices, previously at risk of overloading, now functioned smoothly. From above, Titan's Wake hovered silently, its massive hull gleaming in the sunlight. Human teams moved in and out, carrying materials, repairing buildings, and coordinating repairs. Some carried entire walls of crystalline structure that would have required multiple Liorans to lift. Others adjusted energy grids, rerouting power through their ship when the colony's own networks were insufficient. Sorel watched, amazed. These humans, these Deathworlders, were not only strong, but also patient and precise. They adapted quickly to the Lioran systems, understanding the unique ways the colony functioned and finding solutions faster than anyone had expected. Later, Sorel accompanied a human engineer named Lena to repair the central shield tower. Lena was tall, muscular, and moved with a confidence that Sorel envied. She handled tools that Sorel had never seen, attaching energy modulators and adjusting conduits with incredible speed. "How do you do it so fast?" Sorel asked, struggling to keep up. Lena smiled. "Practice, experience, and understanding the system, but also never panic. Even when things seem impossible, you keep moving forward." Sorel nodded, taking in every word. It was a lesson she would never forget. The humans had a way of treating danger not as a threat, but as a problem to solve, and nothing more. Meanwhile, in the city center, a group of humans worked alongside Lioran technicians to repair a massive energy conduit that had been damaged during the storm. The wind still blew, remnants of the storm pushing against them, but neither humans nor Liorans faltered. Where one group struggled, the other provided support. Where one team paused to calculate, the other acted with instinct. A young Lioran named Farron watched as a human lifted a massive segment of the conduit with ease, placing it perfectly in position. Farron's eyes widened. How are they so strong?" he whispered to Sorel. "They are built for survival," she replied. "Not just for themselves, but for everyone around them." As the day progressed, the humans introduced new techniques to the Liorans. They demonstrated how to link multiple energy sources, how to stabilize power in dangerous conditions, and how to reinforce buildings to withstand storms even stronger than the one they had faced. Sorel absorbed the lessons eagerly, realizing that these humans were not just saving her colony, they were teaching them how to survive the future. By mid-afternoon, a critical problem emerged. A section of the colony's main energy grid had been heavily damaged, and without it, large areas of the city would remain powerless. Human engineers, Sorel, and other Liorans worked together to assess the situation. "This will be difficult," Arya said, examining the grid. "The storm damaged multiple conduits at once. We'll need to stabilize each section before linking them back together." Sorel nodded, determination in her amber eyes. "We can do it. Together." And so, the team worked. Liorans provided calculations and local knowledge. Humans handled the heavy lifting and technical adjustments, and Sorel coordinated the effort. Slowly, section by section, the grid stabilized. Sparks flew, machines hummed, and wires connected, but through careful effort, they restored power to the central city. When the last connection was made, the energy grid hummed steadily, stronger than before the storm. Lights flickered back on, water systems resumed, and the colony's shields glowed with renewed energy. The Liorans erupted in quiet cheers, their relief palpable. Sorel turned to look at the humans, who were quietly assessing the work and preparing for the next task. Captain Arya approached her, smiling. "You did well," Arya said. "Your people adapted quickly." That made all the difference. Sorel blushed slightly. We couldn't have done it without you, she admitted. Your methods, your courage. It taught us how to act in a crisis. Arya's eyes softened. We all learn from each other. That is how we survive. As evening approached, the humans and Leorans began working on more subtle repairs, reinforcing buildings, clearing debris, and setting up early warning systems for future storms. Children watched from a distance, fascinated by the humans' strength and skill. Some tried to mimic their movements, lifting small objects or adjusting minor equipment under the supervision of Leoran instructors. Sorel noticed a group of young Liorans attempting to lift one of the smaller human tools. They struggled, but a human engineer gently guided their hands. Feel the weight, but don't fight it, the engineer said. Move with it. You will learn. The Leoran children laughed as they tried, slowly understanding the rhythm and coordination needed. Sorel smiled, realizing that even the youngest members of her colony were learning from these visitors. The humans' influence extended beyond repairs. They were teaching resilience, adaptation, and confidence. Later that night, Sorel walked through the city with Elder Morin. The streets were illuminated, the hum of energy systems steady, and the occasional glow of the remaining repair devices cast soft light across the buildings. The humans, they are remarkable, Sorel said quietly. I never imagined anyone could handle danger like that. Morin nodded. They are. But remember this, Sorel. It is not just their strength that saved us. It is their willingness to help, to work with us rather than replace us. That is the true lesson. Sorel nodded, taking in his words. She realized that her understanding of the universe had changed. Humans were not simply powerful. They were compassionate, intelligent, and capable of teaching others to survive. That combination made them extraordinary. The next day, cooperation reached new levels. Humans and Liorans began working together on experimental techniques, combining Lioran crystalline technology with human energy devices. The result was astonishing. Where the colony had once been vulnerable to storms, it now had a system capable of withstanding even stronger events. Sorel observed the process closely, taking notes and learning. Lena, the human engineer who had worked with her before, smiled and offered advice. Remember, Sorel, technology alone isn't enough. You need teamwork, trust, and persistence. That is what makes the impossible possible. As the sun set over the repaired colony, a sense of calm returned. The storm was gone, the city was stable, and humans and Leorans had formed a bond stronger than any natural force. Sorel walked along the glowing streets, watching humans and Leorans exchange ideas, repair equipment, and share stories. She realized that this was more than survival. This was cooperation, friendship, and understanding between two very different species. Where fear had once dominated, hope now reigned. Captain Arya stood on the observation deck of Titan's wake, looking over the colony. She could see the Liorans adapting quickly, learning from her crew, and taking control of their own systems once more. It was a success not because humans had done everything, but because both species had worked together. Sorel, Arya said over the comm system. Your people are strong, brave, and intelligent. It has been an honor to work with you. Sorel smiled. The honor is ours, Captain. You've taught us more than I could have imagined. Not just how to survive, but how to thrive. That night, as the three suns set in a perfect alignment, the colony of Leora 7 glowed brightly. Titan's wake rested silently above, its massive hull reflecting the golden light. The humans had come from across the stars, answering a call not meant for them, and in doing so, had changed the future of an entire world. Sorel knew that life on Leora 7 would never be the same. Humans had shown them that even in the face of impossible danger, Courage, intelligence, and teamwork could overcome any challenge. And as she watched the stars twinkle above, she knew that this was only the beginning. Because when two species worked together, combining strength, skill, and wisdom, they could accomplish feats that neither could achieve alone. And in that quiet, glowing city on a once vulnerable planet, humans and Liorans had begun a partnership that would last across generations, shaping a future that once seemed impossible. The bond was not only about survival, it was about growth, learning, and hope. The Deathworlders had arrived, yes, but they had brought more than strength. They had brought friendship, knowledge, and the possibility of a brighter future. For Surreal, Elder Morin, and all of Leora 7, the lesson was clear. Even in the most dangerous moments, cooperation and courage could turn fear into triumph, and strangers from across the stars could become the greatest allies one could ever imagine. The storm that had threatened Leora 7 was gone, leaving behind a sky painted with soft shades of orange and gold as the three suns began their descent. The colony glimmered with renewed energy, its buildings repaired, its streets cleared, and its energy grids humming steadily once again. For the Leorans, life had returned to a fragile calm, but now that calm was accompanied by hope. Above them, Titan's wake hovered silently, a massive symbol of power and reassurance. Its hull reflected the light of the setting suns, and tiny human figures moved across its surface, performing final adjustments, double-checking repairs, and ensuring that the colony would remain safe long after they departed. Captain Arya Holt stood at the front of the ship, her eyes sweeping across the city below. Her gray gaze softened as she watched Leorans moving confidently, now able to handle machinery that would have overwhelmed them just days before. The humans had arrived as rescuers, but they were leaving behind much more than that. They were leaving knowledge, confidence, and a bond that could last generations. Below, Sorel walked through the central plaza, observing her fellow Leorans interacting with the humans. She noticed children attempting to mimic human techniques, laughing as they lifted tools or carried small energy conduits under the supervision of human engineers. Adults exchanged ideas, comparing human methods with their own, refining their systems in ways they had never imagined. "Surreal!" called Tyran, running up to her with a wide smile. "Look, I can stabilize the mini-grid by myself now." He pointed to a small device that glowed steadily in the sunlight. "The humans showed me how." Sorel laughed and nodded. "Excellent, Tyran. You're learning fast. That is exactly what they wanted us to do." Indeed, the humans had not simply repaired the colony. They had trained it to handle crises independently. They had combined Leoran technology with their own knowledge to improve structures, energy systems, and even early warning systems for future storms. By now, Leora 7 was not just a surviving colony, it was a thriving one. Elder Morin watched silently from his tower, his deep eyes reflecting pride. He had been skeptical of the humans at first, fearful of their strength and unpredictability. But now, he saw the truth. Humans were not invaders or destroyers. They were teachers, allies, and protectors. And in their presence, the Leorans had discovered a courage and resilience they never knew they possessed. "Sorel," Morin said, approaching her, "I must admit, I underestimated them, and perhaps I underestimated us as well." Sorel smiled. "They didn't just help us survive, Elder. They helped us believe we can thrive." As the sun set fully, the humans prepared to leave. Titan's Wake's massive engines powered up, casting a bright glow across the city. Yet there was no sense of finality in the air. Instead, the departure felt like a new beginning, a promise that the bond between Leorans and humans would continue beyond this one storm. Arya called over the comm system. "Leora 7, We will depart shortly, but remember this. The universe is vast, and danger may come again. You now have the knowledge, tools, and courage to face it. And if ever you need assistance, send a signal. Humanity does not ignore those in need. Sorel felt a warmth in her chest. These humans, who had seemed so terrifying at first, now represented hope, friendship, and possibility. "We will remember," she said aloud, her voice steady. As Titan's wake lifted gracefully into the sky, the humans waved from the hull. Children waved back, and adults offered their thanks. Gifts of small crystals and woven fabrics from their fields. It was a simple ceremony, yet full of meaning. In that exchange, two species, different, distant, and once strangers, had formed a connection stronger than fear or distance. Later, Sorel walked to the observation deck of one of the repaired towers. The colony glimmered in the twilight, alive with the quiet hum of its systems. She thought about the storm, the SOS, and the massive ship that had arrived from across the stars. It seemed almost impossible that one small mistake, sending the SOS to the wrong world, had resulted in such a profound change, and yet that mistake had brought them the humans. Sorel smiled as she remembered the lessons learned. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Strength was not just physical, but the willingness to support others. Knowledge was powerful, but wisdom and cooperation could achieve far more. The humans embodied all of these qualities, and in sharing them, they had changed the fate of Leora 7 forever. In the following days, life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after such an event. Leorans repaired minor damages, strengthened their buildings, and upgraded energy systems using the techniques the humans had demonstrated. Children practiced lifting small equipment, adults experimented with energy flow systems, and Sorel continued her studies, fascinated by the combination of Leoran and human technology. Even in quiet moments, the humans' influence was visible. Where once the colony had relied solely on careful calculation and slow adjustments, now Leorans moved with confidence and intuition, able to handle challenges as they arose. The culture of fear had shifted into a culture of resilience. One afternoon, Sorel sat with Elder Morin in the plaza, watching the sunset reflect off the crystalline towers. "They have changed us," Morin said quietly. "Not by force, not by power, but by example. That is a lesson more valuable than any material aid." Sorel nodded. "Yes, Elder. And it shows that even the strongest storms can bring something good. We just have to recognize it." Across the plaza, a group of Leoran engineers worked with the remaining human crew, experimenting with new devices that combined both species' knowledge. Energy flowed smoothly through conduits that had once been fragile. Buildings could withstand storms twice the size of the one they had faced. Even the young children were learning techniques that would help them survive in extreme conditions. Sorel approached one of the human engineers, Jorin, who was finishing adjustments on a stabilizer. "How do you know so much?" she asked. Jorin smiled. "We've survived a lot of dangerous worlds," he said simply. "Experience teaches you to adapt. But we also learn from others. That is why working with you has been so valuable. You have knowledge and ideas we could never have imagined." Sorel thought about that. Humans, despite their reputation as fierce survivors, were not arrogant. They respected knowledge, collaboration, and courage wherever it was found. That combination made them extraordinary and worthy allies. By the following week, Titan's wake was ready to leave. The Leorans gathered in the central plaza for a final farewell. Children, adults, and elders all offered gifts, glowing crystals, woven cloths, and carefully crafted items from their workshops. Arya and her crew accepted them graciously, explaining that the gifts symbolized friendship, not obligation. "You have given us more than we could have imagined," Elder Morin said in a steady voice. You have saved our lives, taught us new ways to survive, and shown us the value of cooperation. We will never forget this day." Arya nodded. "We did what anyone should do. We came when help was needed. But the greatest part is what you have learned: how to survive, adapt, and thrive. That knowledge will stay with you long after we are gone." Sorel stepped forward. "Captain Holt, thank you. You have changed the future of Leora 7 forever, not just because you saved us, but because you taught us how to believe in ourselves." Arya smiled. "The honor is mine. We have learned from you as well. Never forget that strength and courage come in many forms. Continue to grow, continue to explore, and help others when you can." As the massive engines of Titan's Wake powered up, the Leorans watched in awe. The ship lifted gracefully, its lights reflecting off the plaza and towers before turning toward the stars. Children waved, adults saluted, and even Elder Morin allowed a small smile to cross his face. "Perhaps," he whispered to Sorel, "we will meet them again someday." Sorel nodded. "I hope so, Elder, and when we do, we will be ready." The humans disappeared into the sky, leaving behind a world stronger, smarter, and more confident than before. Leorans returned to their homes and work, not with fear of the next storm, but with excitement for what they could accomplish. That night, Sorel walked through the central plaza, reflecting on everything that had happened. The SOS that had gone to the wrong world had brought them humans, the very beings most legends had warned them about. And yet, in answering that call, humans had given them more than survival. They had given them courage, knowledge, and friendship. For the first time, Sorel understood the true meaning of hope. It was not just about avoiding danger, it was about learning, growing, and building connections across the stars. In the days and weeks that followed, the colony flourished. Energy grids ran smoothly, buildings were stronger than ever, and the Leorans moved with confidence, applying the lessons the humans had taught them. Children played near reinforced structures, learning techniques that would serve them well for their entire lives. Adults continued experiments with new devices, combining Leoran ingenuity with human technology, and Sorel continued to study, eager to learn more and share knowledge with her people. Though Titan's Wake had departed, its presence remained in the colony, not as a ship in orbit, but as a lasting influence. The lessons, courage, and cooperation of humans had left a mark that no storm could ever erase. And in that mark, Sorel saw the future. A future where Leorans and humans could meet as equals, allies, and friends. Where challenges would be faced not in fear, but with knowledge and courage. Where the bond formed in the shadow of a storm would shape generations to come. Because sometimes, the wrong world is exactly the right world. Sometimes, a call for help leads to allies from across the stars. And sometimes, strangers bring more than rescue. They bring hope, friendship, and the chance to change the future forever. As the three suns rose the next morning, the colony of Leora 7 shone brightly, its streets filled with life, energy, and optimism. Sorel stood on the observation deck, looking at the horizon and imagining the vast universe beyond. She knew that challenges would come again, but she also knew that the Leorans were ready. Thanks to the Deathworlders who had answered an SOS not meant for them, Leora 7 had learned to survive and to thrive. And the story of the humans and the Leorans would be told for generations, a tale of courage, cooperation, and friendship that reached across the stars.